Gentlemen.
Marty, thank you very much. Well, we wanted to talk about was the emotions that were involved in last night, Billy. North Carolina lost the big game to Maryland, emotional victory for Maryland, and the emotion is going to play a part in how these teams react today.
No question. Virginia, Maryland, two teams that we thought would make the NCAAs, but we really weren't sure. Yesterday, were able to achieve their ultimate goal for the year, get to the NCAA. So it'll be interesting to see if they'll be able to recharge those batteries in a 24-hour, well, less than 24 hours, and be ready to go this afternoon.
Of course, the favorites, Duke and Georgia Tech, didn't have that problem. They were able to roll a little bit in the opening round, so we'll see how all four teams react here in today's semifinals. Let's go back upstairs to Paul Cameron.
Thank you, Mike. With Len Elmore. Lenny, into the season, legs are kind of heavy. 2 games in 24 hours. A little fatigue factor perhaps today?
Well, I think that may be the evening type of situation. You have two teams like Maryland and Virginia that try to utilize 7 and 8 players, and therefore you've more or less taken the minutes and spread them out. When you have teams like Duke and Georgia Tech who play maybe 6 people for long periods of time at best, this is when fatigue cuts in. And if they can get on to a third game, you can really see it surface as a factor.
Well, Duke and Virginia, the Blue Devils, #1 seed coming into this tournament. Virginia, not really a surprise, but Virginia a winner yesterday over North Carolina State. That's how they match up in the first semifinal game. Duke and Virginia from Greensboro's Coliseum in Greensboro, North Carolina, the 33rd annual ACC basketball tournament.
The Duke Blue Devils put their #1 ranking on the line yesterday when they opened the 33rd Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament against Wake Forest, and the Demon Deacons came ready to play. Charlie Thomas was able to get open repeatedly inside en route to 17 points, and freshman Rod Watson filled it up from the outside to lead all Wake Forest scorers with 18. Both were the main recipients of Tyrone Bogue's 10 assists. Duke needed some heavy artillery, the heaviest coming from Mark Allery, who won over 2,000 career points with 22. And All-American Johnny Dawkins, who pumped in 16 points and handed out 6 assists. That combination led Duke into the semifinal round. The downside for the Blue Devils concerns guard Tommy Amaker, who played despite an Achilles tendon injury. The question, will he be able to go today? In the second game of the quarterfinal round, it was the Virginia Cavaliers against the North Carolina State Wolfpack, and it proved to be far and away the best matchup of the day. The Cavaliers got a great performance from Mel Kennedy. The sophomore guard from New York scored from all over the floor with his lean-in jump shot. For the record, Kennedy hit 7 of 8 shots and shared Virginia high scoring honors with 16. The other share belonged to center Olden Polynice, who had 8 of 13 for his 16 points. Still, it came down to the final 10 seconds of the game with the Cavaliers hanging on by 2. But a Benny Bolton jumper missed from the corner, and Virginia claimed a close win. So in Game 1 of the semifinal round of the ACC Tournament today, the Duke Blue Devils meet the Virginia Cavaliers. It's live, and it's coming up next from the Greensboro Coliseum.
Today's game is brought to you by Piedmont Airlines, by NCNB, by the Jefferson Pilot Companies, by Budweiser, by South Carolina National, by Subaru, by Food Lion, by Pepsi, by Gillette, and by Central Fidelity.
Season Duke both games. What does Terry Holland and his ball club have to do today to come out of here with an upset win that would send them to the championship round?
Virginia needs to be able to handle the Duke pressure. Duke is a very good team at putting pressure, particularly in the half-court situation. Virginia's going to have to handle that, not turn the ball over in positions where Duke can run down on the fast break, and I think Virginia's going to have to dominate the inside play.
Okay, Duke 14 consecutive victories, 30 wins on the year. They were impressive in being extended to some degree yesterday by Wake Forest. What do they got to do?
I think they've got to get a good game out of Tommy Amaker. Everything starts for Duke in the backcourt. They start outside and basically go in, so if Amaker can't go, then they're in trouble. And I think they also need a big game from David Henderson. He may be the one factor that Virginia doesn't have, that real quick swing type play.
Well, Amaker certainly was questionable yesterday. We'll see how he is here this afternoon against Virginia. Today's game plan has been brought to you by Mazda Cars and Trucks. We're in Greensboro, the semifinal round of the Atlantic Coast Conference Tournament. And we'll be back with more right after this from Budweiser.
Semifinals today. Standing by courtside, Terry Gannon.
You know, a lot has been said about the tournament not meeting that much. There's 5 or 6 bids already out. Forget about it. There's 16,000 people in this building that fought for their tickets. These players know it matters. To do something you love to do, feel that it matters, there can be no bigger high. Nobody going to have more fun on those guys in short pants and tank tops out there today. Paul?
Thank you very much, Terry. Another key, interesting matchup might be Mel Kennedy and David Henderson. Those two have gone head-to-head and done extremely well against each other. It'll be interesting to see if they can stop one another today. Of course, Duke has beaten Virginia twice, but one of those games at Virginia was much closer than the score would indicate. We're set for our starting lineups. Learn those from our public address announcer, Larry Dunlap.
Good afternoon and welcome to Greensboro, North Carolina, the Greensboro Coliseum. The starters for our first semifinal game between the Virginia Cavaliers and the Blue Devils of Duke University. For Virginia at guard, a 6'5" sophomore from Long Island City, New York, number 21, Mel Kennedy. For Duke at guard, a 6-foot junior from Falls Church, Virginia, number 4, Tommy Amaker. For Virginia at guard, a 6-foot junior from Charlottesville, Virginia, number 5, Tom Calloway. For Duke at guard, a 6'2" senior from Washington, D.C., number 24, Johnny Dawkins. Virginia at center, a 6'11" junior from New York, number 24, Olden Colonies. For Duke at center, a 6'8" senior from Rolling Hills, California, number 21, Jay Billis. For Virginia at forward, a 6'7" junior from Kingston, Jamaica, number 42, Andrew Kennedy. For Duke at forward, a 6'8" senior from Scottsdale, Arizona, number 32, Mark Allery. For Virginia at forward, a 6'9" junior from Rochester, New York, number 22, Tom Sheehy. For Duke at forward, a 6'5" senior from Drury, North Carolina, number 12, David Henderson. Head coach for the University of Virginia, Terry Holland. And the coach for Duke University, Mike Krzyzewski.
They're the trio of officials who will call this first semifinal game today. That's Joe Forte on your left, Hank Nichols in the center, and John Moreau out of Richmond, Virginia on the right. With Dan Bones Bonner, this is Marty Brenneman from the Greensboro Coliseum for this first semifinal game. And Dan, you talked with some of the Virginia assistants. I talked with Dave Odom. They really don't plan to do a whole lot differently today. I know Dave said they're going to put Mel Kennedy on Tommy Amaker and Calloway on Johnny Dawkins. Really a switch in the backcourt from the way they went during the regular season.
Well, it's a switch in the backcourt. They're concerned that Kennedy is not quick enough to keep up with Dawkins, and Dawkins is a bigger scorer. The interesting thing about the Virginia game plan is that they want to try to limit Duke's opportunities. Duke, of course, causes 19 turnovers a game, and what that means is they take the ball out of the opponent's hands 19 times. They take away 19 opportunities, and technically they add 19 opportunities to their total, and that's an awfully tough thing to overcome. So Virginia's going to try to avoid those turnovers and avoid situations like second shots on free throws and second shots on rebounds off free throws that could cause some problems.
Interesting aspect about that particular statistic, the turnover number for the Duke Blue Devils. Virginia did not help it. They turned the ball over 14 times in the first game, 14 in the second. Obviously, Terry Holland would like to reduce that even more today, but it does say one thing, and I would imagine it says that Virginia has not been hurt nearly as badly by the Duke defense as maybe some other clubs have.
Except for the fact that Virginia has to play in their offense to be effective, and the Duke defense can force you out of that offensive pattern. And if Virginia gets into a lot of one-on-one stuff, then I think they could have some problems.
We're set to go. We might tell you that due to sunspot activity, you may be experiencing some video difficulty, but please stay tuned. The problem will be cleared up shortly.
Now, wait a minute. We had the sunspots yesterday. We got to get somebody up there with some spot remover and get rid of those babies.
I told you I failed that course in college. Tommy Amaker and the Duke Blue Devils get the opening tip-off here against the Virginia Cavaliers. Here's David Henderson looking low to Mark Allery. Had the big day yesterday, and he puts it up in there.
Virginia's starting into man-to-man. That's going to be a big matchup inside for Virginia. Sheehy matched up against Allery.
There you take a look at the tournament record. Duke 6 out of 8 tournament games against the University of Virginia. They've got the numbers on their side, and they lead quickly 2-0. Kennedy on the baseline. Mel flips it back outside to Tom Callaway. Polynice turning on Billis off the mark, but the rebound controlled by Drew Kennedy. He double pumps it up, no good. Amaker peels off the rebound, and Duke looking to go up by 4. Mallory takes a jump shot, kicks it outside of the trailer Billis, and the Devils will set up their offense. Good defense by Sheehy. Got help from Kennedy, but it left Amaker open. He misfires.
Good rebound by Sheehy. Good block out. Now, Kennedy, he can't leave Amaker too much because Amaker doesn't score very much, but he can. And if Kennedy's going to not pay close enough attention, they can have a problem.
Amaker went for the steal, didn't get it. Kennedy misses Polynice's foul as he follows and will be on the free throw line for a pair.
The foul's against Jay Billis, and so far early in the game, what we're seeing is that Virginia's doing one of the things that they said they had to do, and that is some rebounding. Polynice in excellent position. Billis didn't really block him out very well. If Virginia's going to be successful, they have to get second shot opportunities, and that's the second time that they've gotten one.
Polynice, 65% free throw shooter, but boy, this young man has been on a roll in recent weeks, playing the best basketball of his collegiate career, and he finds himself and his ball club here in the semifinals against a top-ranked team in the nation and trying to pull off the upset.
In the game in Charlottesville, the last time these two teams played, he only took 5 shots in 37 minutes, so his teammates have to concentrate very hard despite the tough pressure on getting the ball to him.
We are tied at 2 apiece. A minute 15 gone.
Virginia showing a 1-3-1 zone.
Amaker making his move against that Virginia zone defense. Henderson cross-courting to Dawkins, pulling up, no good. Mallory fires, missing, tipped by Billis. Mallory keeps it alive for Dawkins. 4-2 Blue Devils.
While on the one end, Virginia has had some success, they were so concentrating on scrambling around trying to get the double team that nobody blocked anybody out.
Talking about the lack of rebounding strength against this club, and Duke really went to work that time against Virginia on the offensive board. He throws it away.
The kind of a turnover that the Duke pressure defense can create. They cut off the passing lanes, and so as an offensive player, you think, okay, I've got to go someplace else. But if that move isn't in sync, then the ball's going out of bounds, and that's what happened that time.
41-26, an enviable record for the Duke Blue Devils in Atlantic Coast Conference play. And they got another offensive rebound.
They sure did. Virginia not blocking out at this point in the game. That's an extra opportunity for Duke, and the Blue Devils can take advantage.
Henderson shooting, partially deflected by Drew Kennedy. Look at Billis going to work inside, and he's fouled.
He's going to be fouled by Olden Polynice before the shot, but that time you had David Henderson with an offensive rebound. Here's Henderson going to take the second shot now. Dawkins with another rebound. He's going to get it up on the board. Billis is going to get a tip. Now Billis gets it again. That's the foul right there. Right. Polynice coming over. But the Duke Blue Devils had 4 opportunities on that series.
Dawkins behind the Henderson, and Billis picked, and he drives it home. They sent that double screen just outside the free throw line, and Johnny Dawkins took care of the rest. Duke has already picked off 5 offensive rebounds. Check that score out. Back in 1983, UVA defeating Duke in their last tournament meeting and beating them decisively with a fellow by the name of Ralph Sampson.
And these fellas out here were freshmen. There's Callaway with the jumper from the wing.
That young man has been shooting almost 58%, Tom Callaway, from the field in his last 13 and buries his first attempt today. Allery, he rattles the iron, and Polynice comes up with the board, and Virginia will now try and tie it up. Mel Kennedy, Tom Callaway, Olden Polynice, Tom Sheehy, and Drew Kennedy for Virginia against Dawkins, Amaker, Allery, Billis, and Henderson.
Now look how far out Virginia has to start their offense. Callaway's by half court, and he's got to go in to try to set up, and that runs time off the clock.
15-footer by Polynice. How about that?
Now, you said Polynice has been on a roll. You usually don't see him sticking those 15-foot turnarounds. If he's going to do that, Virginia might be in pretty good shape.
You call that confidence with a capital C. Now Dawkins, they call a blocking foul. Looked a bit like an offensive foul, but Joe Forte on top of it and nails Callaway.
You touched on it before the game. Callaway's matched up against Dawkins to try to have a little more quickness against Johnny Dawkins. That's a very tough call to make. Call could have gone either way.
Dawkins got him in the air, puts it on the floor, puts it in the basket. He has 3 field goals in a hurry. And Duke leads 8-6.
Dawkins is such a dangerous shooter, so you have to respect that pump fake, and Callaway took himself out of the play.
So Virginia jockeys for position offensively, and Dan, you touched on how far out Virginia has to start its offense. That's by design from Duke's defensive perspective. Mel Kennedy for Virginia.
Duke is trying to force you out, figuring that the further you have to go, the more likely it is you'll make a mistake while you're attacking.
An 8-8 lockup. Driving Dawkins. A little bit too strong. Kennedy wrestles it away from teammate Tom Sheehy. So here come the Cavaliers, and they turn it over. Mel Kennedy with a traveling violation in open court. That'll give it right back to Duke, but first, coaches Krzyzewski and Holland want to discuss matters with 15:41 to go in the half. A lockup. Duke 8, Virginia likewise. We'll be back.
The essence of Scully. Never been all like this. So trim.
The announcers for this game are approved and selected by Raycom Sports and Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions. Any rebroadcast, retransmission, duplication, or reception of this telecast without the express written permission of Raycom Sports, Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions is prohibited. Virginia steals. They come back hoping to take the lead. Kennedy goes to the free throw line where he's picked up by Allery, and Callaway coughs it up.
Marty, you might say here's Dawkins. This is what Virginia did not want. Dawkins ahead. That's a foul on Kennedy. You might say, well, that's an unforced turnover. Callaway just lost the ball, but I don't buy that. It's a turnover caused by Duke's pressure. Good hustle by Henderson to slap the ball out to Allery, and Dawkins is just gone. Nobody from Virginia realizes he's down the court. They did not want that to happen, but Duke is playing very effectively.
Johnny Dawkins, 6 points. An outstanding free throw shooter at 83.8%, and wouldn't you know, he misses his first attempt of the day. He is 4th in the league in free throw shooting, 10th in field goal percentage, and 3rd in scoring. With an average of 19.2, he has had a truly all-American season. The senior from Washington, D.C.
Marty, to talk about the turnovers a little bit further, Duke now with a 1-point lead. They scored 3 points directly as a result of Virginia turnovers. So at this point in the game, their lead is based on the turnovers that they've created.
9-8. Duke out in front. Here's John Johnson just in the lineup, dishing off to Drew Kennedy, and Virginia leads by a point.
John Johnson, I'm sure, is in the game to try to settle things down from that turnover standpoint, and he made a nice penetration move that time.
Jerry Holland working on Joe Forte across the floor as the official comes up the floor with the ball. Pass inside, Allery. He throws up a prayer. It goes unanswered, and the foul call against Duke J. Billis. That's his second.
Good passing inside by the Duke Blue Devils. Allery got a good pass. He just wasn't. Kennedy trying to get in front. Cannot. Good catch by Allery. Good defensive help by Polynice. He made Allery switch the shot. That foul call was on Jay Billis over the back of Mel Kennedy, who appeared to me to be on the back of Mark Allery. Get all those guys' saddles out there.
Tom Sheehy is back in the Virginia lineup. He's going to give Drew Kennedy a breather. Virginia with a point lead and possession of the basketball. John Johnson to Mel Kennedy.
Now here Virginia's made 2 passes in their offense, and they're barely beyond the hash mark.
There's Richard Morgan just handling the ball a moment ago. He's fresh off the bench. They loop it to Polynice. He tried to kick it inside to Sheehy, except Mr. Allery steps in front, and Virginia's now turned it over 4 times.
There's Henderson on the run. That matchup between he and Kennedy ought to be a good one.
Henderson finds Dawkins again behind a double screen. This time it didn't go. That's the second time Virginia has seen Duke run that play. The first time Dawkins drilled it. This time it was in and out. And a foul call number 1 against Allery.
You see Tom Sheehy with a good effort at blocking out Mark Allery. The shot goes up. Sheehy gets Allery on his back, and that's the push right there. Tom Sheehy is really a tough character. He's one of those guys that looks like he couldn't find a hotel room last night because they were all full, so he always looks like he got about 4 hours sleeping in his car. Has that rumpled, tough look about it.
He gets his money's worth, doesn't he?
Yeah, he sure does.
Polynice to Johnny Johnson. He started to run toward a double team. Billy King now in the Duke lineup. 10-9, Virginia. We've got 13:30 remaining in the first half.
Very good defense by Duke. Virginia's back out at half court again. There's only 15 seconds on the shot clock.
Shot rejected by Danny Ferry. The freshman from Bowie, Maryland rebounds. The kick out to David Henderson. Duke wants to run, and Henderson does it as well as anybody.
John Johnson was forced by the Duke defense to go into a one-on-one move. When he does that, Virginia's not in good position to get back on defense. Duke is able to run down and score.
11-10. Blue Devils have regained the advantage. Sheehy with Danny Ferry all over him. Now to Polynice. Baseline jump shot. Bingo.
Good pass inside by Sheehy.
He had but 7 points, Olin Polynice. The last time these two clubs hooked up, he's already tossed in 6 today. Allery.
And Tom Sheehy hit him right in the nose as he let the ball go. I don't know how a guy can concentrate and knock down an 18-footer like that with a finger in your face.
That statement, folks, comes from a man who expects to have his uniform jersey retired any day now by the University of Virginia.
Based on the statute of limitations.
Richard Morgan. He's played very well of late coming off the bench.
If he can come off the bench and give Virginia a big game, I think that'll be an important factor in the game. Virginia really needs some help off the bench if they're going to beat the #1 team in the country.
They've gotten good play off the bench, especially at that guard spot the last 3 weeks or so. Richard Morgan and John Johnson out of bounds to Virginia.
Sheehy going up the court holding his nose. Somebody nailed him. You get a look at the action inside. Sheehy again trying to block out Allery. That time Allery gets right by him. Not a very good block out by Sheehy, but Allery knocked it out of bounds.
So Mark Allery with a personal foul, and that's now 3 team fouls against the Duke Blue Devils. Johnny Johnson will come front court against Dawkins.
Marty, I don't think they called a foul on Allery in that situation. He's only got the 1 foul. He just knocked the ball out of bounds.
Andrew Kennedy goes to Olin Polynice. Nothing down low. Tom Callaway back in the lineup. Turning, nothing for Polynice to the baseline. Sheehy, not a whole lot of room to operate, and he made the most out of it.
Good move by Sheehy. He's not exactly what you call your quick player, but he made a nice first step to get around on the baseline.
Very opportunistic for Tom Sheehy, and there's the John Johnson foul, and Terry Holland
is up off the bench telling John Johnson that that was a good call, that Johnson simply can't reach in like that. He's got to play defense with his feet. Here comes Ferry out to attack Sheehy. Sheehy just goes right by him. Ferry came out and got too close while Sheehy still had his dribble.
We got a good one going with 11:27. There's timeout. Virginia owns a lead of 3. Stay with us. Interesting to look at those names. Tourney MVPs who were not selected to all conference teams. And look at the list. That's a pretty good array of basketball
talent. That's neither the first nor second team. And here's some of this year's candidates. These guys all had great games yesterday. Gillis gets the basket there.
Big J rattles one in, and Duke pulls back to within a point. Well, you think of some of those names: Len Bias, Dudley Bradley, John Kuster, Sam Perkins. Impressive. Duke is now 3 of its last 7 from the floor, while Virginia has canned 7 out of its last 8, make it 7 of 9. The ball is loose, and Curry was unable to contain it. It goes out of bounds.
That's a heck of a break for Virginia. That was a very difficult shot by Tom Sheehy. I don't know what he's thinking about shooting that one. Good defense by Duke.
Whistle before the ball is ever inbounded, and I think they got Danny Ferry
hanging on to Tom Sheehy.
Don't forget, at the conclusion of today's game, join us. We'll be choosing a player from each team as the Holly Farms Players of the Game.
Marty, Virginia at this point is out rebounding Duke 8-7, and the Virginia coaches felt that was a key to the game.
John Johnson recycling that Virginia offense. Cavaliers looking for win number 20 of the season today. They come out of this game 19-9, while Duke is a somewhat gaudy 30-2.
Duke has Virginia out way beyond the top of the key. We're trying to work it inside.
Well, Mr. Kennedy needs help. He finds it in Charlottesville native Tom Callaway. 13 seconds.
This is shot clock defense. This is really some good man-to-man defense by Duke.
Johnson with a dribbling exhibition. He throws one up and in. Banked it in under heavyweight defense.
Now that worked that time for Virginia, but again, their offense deteriorates into a one-on-one thing. If he misses that shot, Duke is going down to the other end for an easy opportunity.
Yeah, but if a bullfrog had wings, you know what they say, don't you? He made that shot. 18 to 15 in favor of Virginia. Billis kicks it outside. Perry fakes a jumper, works it low. The jump hook by Billy King. Comes high off the iron, and there's Polonese.
Andrew Kennedy's got to stay away from that. He almost got killed by Polonese pulling that rebound out.
Well, Virginia taking the early lead here against the Duke Blue Devils. We're under 10 minutes to go in the half here. Sheehy, and he throws up an air ball.
That was a wild shot. Sheehy once again making a good move to the baseline.
That young man has had some big-time problems in terms of shooting, although it was somewhat impressive here yesterday in the Cavaliers' 2-point win over NC State. Callaway on the stop and go. Long rebound, Tommy Amaker.
Virginia does a nice job getting back on defense. The secondary break for Billis.
It didn't work for Jay like it worked for Holden earlier.
Or for Mark Allery. That looked like it was about 2 feet out of Billis's range.
That was an 18-footer that went 16. And with 9 to go, it's Virginia. And here's a prayer thrown up by John Johnson.
John Johnson made a shot like that with about a minute left in the quarterfinal game yesterday that really was the winning basket for Virginia.
And the Virginia faithful really getting into it now. That is the biggest lead enjoyed by either team, and Virginia has it. 5 points, 20-15.
I mentioned that Duke is doing this, that Virginia's making this run at Duke with all three of Henderson, Dawkins, and Allery out of the game, and they're all waiting to come back in.
Senior Weldon Williams. Now to Danny Ferry. Baseline jumper, short, rebound. Drew Kennedy climbs the ladder. And here come the Cavaliers again. Good pass by Callaway. The shot goes. It's going to count.
I don't think that basket should count, Marty, and I'll tell you why. Sheehy lost control of the ball. He was fouled, and then he's just going to slap at it on his way down. Sheehy's going to drive to the basket. Another good step. Now Sheehy loses the ball, and as he's coming down, he actually tipped it in the basket. I don't think that ball should have counted.
And it's interesting, though, Dan, Mike Krzyzewski not having anything to say about the call. So Sheehy gets a field goal and goes to the free throw line. Virginia can make it an 8-point advantage.
Well, of course, just because what I think, Marty, doesn't mean anything, the three officials out there know pretty much what they're doing.
Oh, yes, it does, Bones. Yes, it does. Sheehy throws in his 5th point. And now Virginia drops back defensively. Nell Kennedy talking to his teammates as Virginia sets up, and Tommy Amaker coming out of the backcourt.
We mentioned Virginia made that run, and Duke did not have very much offensive firepower in the game, but all you'd want is in there now.
This Tommy Amaker doing something with 8 minutes to go in the first half that he did not do all day yesterday, and that is score.
Virginia's gotten 6 points coming off the bench. Duke doesn't have any production from their bench.
23-17. Tom Callaway matched step for step by Tommy Amaker to Mel Kennedy. Drives by Danny Perry and lost it to Johnny Dawkins. Got it.
There's a turnover, and there's Duke converting the turnover. Kennedy trying to make a one-on-one play.
Scored 9 points for Dawkins.
And Bullfrogs or no, Marty, I think that Virginia's got to stay within the context of their offense, or Duke is eventually going to wear them down.
Bullfrogs or no, I like that.
So you're talking about Bullfrogs and wings.
We're talking.
Here I'm making valid points, and you're on my case.
Duke has scored 4 points in a row. Kennedy whips it inside to the other Kennedy. Drew, he hit it. And Duke foul. I'll tell you, it was a fine move. Now Mike Krzyzewski's got some beef going.
Now Virginia's working in the context of their offense here. What a great spin by Andrew Kennedy. Gets Ferry on his back. Ferry tries to reach over from the back. I think Mike Krzyzewski might be saying that Andrew Kennedy walking from that angle, Mike Krzyzewski's got a real good argument.
Well, Mike walked right up the sidelines following referee John Moreau, the man who made the call. Kennedy throws it up, no good. Allery is there for the Blue Devils. 25-19, Virginia by a half a dozen. David Henderson going one-on-one, making 1-on-3. It's academic.
Duke has so many weapons. To stop Dawkins, you got to deal with Allery. If you stop Allery, you got to deal with Henderson. That was just a great move by David Henderson.
And the All-Atlantic Coast Conference second-teamer has 4 points. Now Kennedy almost picked up that pivot foot. Now speeds to Polonese, jumper up, didn't get it. Amaker and Johnson make contact as Tommy heads up the floor and chalk up number 2 of the afternoon against John Johnson.
Polynice with a very tough shot. I think that's a good idea to attack Allery with Polynice, but Polynice with a bad shot there.
We got a good one going. 6:29 to go in the first half. 25-21 Virginia. Back after this from Budweiser.
This Bud's for all that you do. You keep America going.
This ACC Tournament game is an exclusive of Raycom Sports and Jefferson Pilot Teleproductions.
Virginia leads by 4. We showed this to you earlier, but really did not show it to you long enough for you to grasp the feel of what we're talking about. Those tournament MVPs who were not selected during that season to all conference teams, and as you can see, there are 5 of them. Interesting that 4 of the 5 were from the North Carolina Tar Heels. Now, the young men who at this moment are candidates for this year's MVP awards who did not make the all-conference team.
Either first or second team. Those guys were left off entirely. Now, there's been other players. Wally Walker from Virginia is a good example who got left off the first team but made the second team, and he went on to become the tournament MVP.
Well, Virginia's shooting well. Duke would like to get better. The Cavaliers lead by 4. 6:15 on the clock. Amaker,
he missed it. That was an air ball. Amaker again. Duke that's a couple of air balls that they've shot up there now. We've talked a lot about the Duke defense, but we have to give some credit here to the Virginia defense. They have played very well.
And Virginia at the moment has out-rebounded Duke 13-10. That is probably a figure that puts a big smile on Holland's face, but not play like that.
Now that's the 6th Virginia turnover, and that's 7 Duke points that have come as a direct result of those turnovers. So you can easily see in a 2-point game how much that Duke defense means.
And that is 11 big ones for prolific scoring Johnny Dawkins. Stay tuned at halftime when we will announce 2 of the finalists in the Pepsi Super Fan Contest. One of many biggies forthcoming from Paul Cameron and Len Elmore. Stay with us. Sheehy puts it up. Line drive jumper misses. Big rebound by Andrew Kennedy. And the follow shot by Sheehy. Quite an effort by Andrew Kennedy that enabled Tom Sheehy to get that basket.
That's absolutely right. Andrew Kennedy kept it alive, showed good strength to get the ball out of the Duke hands.
Now David Henderson turns the corner and ran into a traffic jam in Andrew Kennedy.
David Henderson is really a tough player for Virginia to match up with simply because Henderson has good quickness outside. That time he just beat Kennedy. Kennedy's just not fast enough to stay with him. He pushes Henderson out of bounds.
Duke trailing by 4. Henderson tries to cut it to 2. Didn't get it. There's Dawkins skying for the rebound, and boy, is he having some kind of first half.
Johnny Dawkins is such a player on the fast break, on the boards. He's a tremendous talent.
He has scored better than 50% of Duke's points. 13 of their 25. It's a 2-point game. Callaway up. Ball picked off by Kennedy. The tip no good. The ball slapped outside, and David Henderson is there for the Blue Devils. Knocked away by Callaway, and finally recovered by Drew Kennedy.
Good hustle by Callaway. Duke actually had a 3-on-2 break, and I thought they were going to get a layup, but Callaway came from nowhere. Virginia continues to do a good job on the boards. I'm sure Coach Krzyzewski is not very happy with his team blocking out.
Setting up high, Polynice. They're all over him, the swarming Duke defense, and he's open. They found him, and he drove it home and also drove Tommy Amaker to the deck.
Sheehy has been getting that. He owns that baseline today. His problem is once he gets down there close to the basket, he hasn't made very many of those, but that was an excellent move.
I'll tell you, you'd have to have real good hospitalization policy if you want to check him on the baseline.
And that's that. Here you get a chance to see what we're talking about. Duke trying to double team out high. Sheehy taking it strong to the basket. Good concentration. Notice the way Sheehy continues to look at the basket even while he's falling down.
Hope Tommy Amaker had his premium paid up. 29-25 Virginia. On the line is Mark Allery. He has already scored a couple of field goals today, coming off of a 22-point performance in yesterday's quarterfinal game that put his career point total at 2,010. He now is at 2,015. And it's interesting, with respect to that number, he and Johnny Dawkins are the only teammates in Atlantic Coast Conference history to go over 2,000 career points each. The 2 hits by Allery. It is even closer now. Virginia 29 and Duke 27. And we'll be back. Shy of 4 minutes remaining here in the first half. It has been pretty much this way. The biggest lead, 5 points for the Virginia Cavaliers. Right now, they're trying to hang on to the lead they have. And that's impressive. You talk about consistency and getting it up and going out there. Every time your club tees it up, Allery and Dawkins, every game they have started in their 4 years at Duke, you wonder how many. 126 consecutive games, and that's strong.
Not only is that an impressive statistic because of the number of games over the 4-year period, but think about the fact that that means not once in 126 games have either one of those guys had an injury serious enough to keep them out of the lineup. That's astounding in and of itself.
They bettered your record just slightly, didn't they, at UVA?
The only record I have at UVA is had shots blocked, and I lead the world in that.
Virginia played very, very well here in the first half. The lead and the score would indicate that. Sheehy has had an especially fine first half. He knocks down Billy King. No whistle.
Well, that's an interesting move to the basket. Good defense to get yourself over by knocking the guy on his fanny and then drilling.
11 points for Tom Sheehy. Contact, whistle. It'll be a blocking foul, and Tom Callaway didn't exactly agree with the call by Joe Forte.
Well, watch Sheehy with his square-up move. This is the classic square-up move here. Billy King goes right down. See, okay, if I'm open, I'm going to shoot the ball. Nice shot by Sheehy. He has played well. We've been talking about Tom Sheehy a lot. He's been in the center of the game since it started. He's been involved in all kinds of things.
Johnny Dawkins will get another shot as he pumps home point number 14. Tom Callaway will sit down in favor of the more rested John Johnson.
Callaway also has 2 fouls. He's trying very hard to guard Dawkins, but Dawkins is showing just how big a load he is to handle.
That's 15 for Johnny Dawkins. This game is being brought to you in part by Mercedes-Benz. 31 Virginia, 29 Duke. John Johnson doing his thing to Andrew Kennedy. Allery on him like a blanket. There's Polonese, and now it's Mel Kennedy. He puts it up and in.
Nice shot by Mel Kennedy. Now, Mel Kennedy has had 3 20-point games in his career, and they've all been against Duke. Mel Kennedy has the ability to play very well against the Blue Devils.
Averaging almost 19 points a game in the 4 games that he has played against Duke since coming to Virginia. Dawkins on the stop and go. Pass inside. That was intended by Tommy Amaker for Jay Billis. It goes OB, and Virginia gets it back.
That was too tough a pass by Amaker. He was trying to make a bounce pass from one corner basically into the other corner, getting it all the way through the lane. That never had a chance.
Only the 3rd turnover charged against Duke, compared with 6 against the Virginia Cavaliers. Virginia by 4. We've got 2:20 and running on the clock.
Good cut by Sheehy to come and get the ball.
And a good pass by Polonese. All Duke could do was foul and hope the shot failed to go.
Now, you talk, Marty, about the Duke defense and how it forces Virginia outside. One thing that you have to do if you're a forward like Sheehy is get open. Good cut by Sheehy to come out to the top. That puts him in position where he can make this pass to Polonese. Give credit to Tom Sheehy for a good cut. That's something you wouldn't notice, but you got to catch the ball in position to do something with it, and Sheehy did a great job.
Dan Ferry has gone to the Duke bench as a result of his 3rd personal foul, so they have Ferry with 3. They have Billis also sitting down with 2. And Polonese could not convert. Right now, Duke going with Tommy Amaker, Johnny Dawkins, David Henderson, Mark Allery, and Billy King. Henderson fails. The tip didn't get it. Polonese. And now John Johnson. Sheehy up ahead. He's got a mismatch there. Tries to take advantage of it, and he did.
And Tom Sheehy feels it.
Amaker was forced to pick him up. Sheehy with a big height advantage, 6'9" to 6 feet. And he scored 13.
Alden Polonese may have hurt himself. Sheehy, that time, here you get a chance to see the play down on the other end. Tom Sheehy, with an excellent spin move, gets himself squared to the basket and knocks it in. What we're watching out here live, Tom Sheehy was matched up against Mark Allery. Allery knocked him down, so that's the 2nd foul on Mark Allery. Polonese was backing up, stepped on Sheehy, and fell down. Looks like Polonese is all right, however. Well, look at Sheehy. Sheehy's been involved, we said, right from the start, pushing against Allery. Now watch Sheehy make a nice move to get around on the other side. Allery just pushes him down, and that's what causes the problem for Polynice. He fell right into the back of Polynice's ankle.
It'll be Sheehy at the other end to shoot him. Allery with 2, Billis with 2, Ferry with 3. Things not going well at the moment for Duke.
Now, Polynice is back ready to come in the game, but I don't think Polynice can come in until some time runs off the clock, and that's what Joe Forte is telling Terry Holland, so Polynice is going to go back to the bench. Now Polynice can go up and report in.
A 15-point first half for Tom Sheehy, and Duke now trailing Virginia 37-29.
What a rebound by Billy King.
I guess.
Andrew Kennedy had good position, but King just went up over top of Kennedy and got the ball. Kennedy committed the foul. Good defense again by Sheehy. Tough shot by Allery. Nobody blocked out Billy King. He had a good run at the basket. Watch Sheehy now. Sheehy's having a great game on offense and defense. He sticks that hand right in Mark Allery's face. He doesn't try to get up and block the shot, but he put his hand right in Allery's face, and that can be very disconcerting.
Billy King only shooting about 49% for the season from the free throw line. He rolled that one in.
Big free throws. Duke was in danger of getting blown out of the game in the first half. Now it's down to 7, but Virginia did have an 8-point lead.
37-30, 1:32 time remaining. And King hit them both somewhat uncharacteristically.
Now, Virginia's defense is picked up. We showed you a turnover graphic before where it was 6-1. Virginia 6 turnovers, Duke 4. Duke's turned it over 3 times recently, and that's helped Virginia.
Richard Morgan, he throws up a wild one, and David Henderson is on the other side to peel it off. Body's going down. Offensive foul. Johnny Johnson went down. Richard Morgan hit the deck. And Duke nailed with another personal foul.
This is interesting. John Johnson is going to step in front of Henderson and get the charge. Good play. I thought that Henderson was distracted by Richard Morgan flying in front of him there. I don't think he ever really saw John Johnson, who made a nice defensive play.
So shooting will be Johnson of Virginia. Duke has not had a field goal in better than 3.5 minutes. Their last field goal came with 5 minutes remaining in the half. They have had 6 free throw successes since then, but no field goal.
We have to give some credit for that particular instance to the Virginia defense. We spent a lot of time talking about the Duke defense, and it is what's keeping Duke in the game because they're not having very much success offensively, but Virginia has forced the Blue Devils into some tough opportunities.
Sophomore out of Brooklyn, New York, made one, missed the other. Duke, did they save it? No, they didn't. The bottom line is Virginia gets it back.
That all starts with Mel Kennedy having a great effort on the offensive board.
Shut up. Offensive foul against Richard Morgan. He protests somewhat vehemently, and Hank Nichols says, hey, son, calm down.
Richard Morgan took a flyer from the corner the last time, and now this is another tough shot by Morgan. He's a very exuberant basketball player. Sometimes gets carried away. That shot had no chance, even if he had not committed the foul. That's a pretty good call.
You saw Virginia coach Terry Holland apparently finding some levity in that call.
Well, now Richard Morgan's not going to find any levity in the call because Derek Sims is coming in the game.
Well, here comes a young man who looks like a football running back and has the physique to support that feeling. 6'3", 213-pounder, a sophomore out of Alexandria, Virginia. There have been a couple of games that he has really given the Virginia club a real lift coming off the bench for his defense.
Boy, that was a nice rebound by Sheehy. He extended fully and grabbed that one in.
Virginia's lead remains 7, 38-31. There's another turnover. David Henderson picks it up for Duke.
Now, again, you might say, well, Polynice just dropped that ball, but it's the constant pressure by Duke that causes those situations, and here's Virginia with a steal.
Well, Virginia trying to hold its own in that department and doing a pretty good job of it. The shot clock is off with 23-22. 21 seconds remaining in the half. Duke chasing now. They love to force another turnover and get the final basket, giving them a bit of momentum going to the dressing room.
Johnson's got to be careful. He's got that left arm out there pushing against Dawkins.
8 seconds to go. Ball is lost. Sims, and look out. out. Who's got it? It's out of bounds to Duke with 4 seconds remaining.
And we've got a foul. We've got a foul. I think we have a foul on Tom Sheehy.
John Moreau, Dan, overruled apparently Hank Nichols, who did not apparently see the foul.
It's a difficult call for Hank Nichols on the foul because he's got to be concentrating on whether that ball's out of bounds or not. So he did not see the foul, but John Moreau did, and that's why you got more than one official working a game.
Second foul on Tom Sheehy, and Duke has that chance now to become the last team to score before the first half horn sound.
That's the 9th Virginia turnover, and that free throw conversion by Amaker means that Duke has now scored 8 points on Virginia turnovers with a chance to make that 9 points.
38-32, Virginia. We'll probably see some Duke pressure on the inbounds with 4 seconds to go. There it is. Johnson trying to beat the defense. He throws it up from half court, and he's off the mark. So 20 minutes of basketball in the books in this first semifinal game of the afternoon, and Virginia is in the dressing room with a 5-point lead. Dan Bonner, they've been impressive, the Cavaliers.
They certainly have. They have played very aggressively, both offensively and defensively, even though the only bad spot for Terry Holland is that they've turned the ball over 9 times. This is the most recent turnover. Virginia trying to get the last shot. Some good Duke defense. Look at those Duke guys on the floor. Now there's where Sheehy gets called for the foul. With that left hand, he knocks Tom Amaker down. So Amaker's able to convert the 1-and-1.
Well, this is exactly what we expected. This matchup between Duke and Virginia, a good one at halftime. 38-33 Virginia. Back after this from Bud Light.
Along with Len Elmore, and Lenny, maybe a sign of good things for Virginia's Cavaliers. They're up at the break, and 15 of 17 games this year they have gone on to win when leading at halftime. But hey, they're playing the #1 team in the country right now. I don't know how much that statistic really means. All right, Olden Polonies, I think you and I both agree. Here's a guy who belongs to the all-shirt tail league. I mean, 5 minutes into the game, the shirt tail's out, and he is hitting the floor, and he's a tough guy, isn't he?
Well, he's displaying some blue-collar attributes out there on the floor. But what's important is he's also drawing an awful lot of attention, and that's leaving Tom Sheehy wide open in some instances, and in other instances, the man who's guarding him has to be afraid that Olden Pollins is going to get a quick pass inside, so he's staying late. But when Sheehy gets the ball, that man gets to him too late, and consequently Sheehy's had a big half.
An instance earlier in the first half involving Tom Sheehy along the baseline. Len, he was driving in, and really basket interference could have been called here.
Well, Sheehy drives the lane, and as he lays it up, his second effort, he grabs the rim, and once the ball is in the cylinder, or even if it's not in the cylinder, once you grab the structure of the rim when the ball's in the air, they're usually going to call goaltending. At least you're supposed to. Again, on the second effort, he grabs the rim, and the ball had already hit. And that, again, he was in contact with the rim as the ball had contact with the rim. So that should have been goaltending.
But don't you know that's one of the toughest things for the referees to keep their eyes on? And today's game plan has been brought to you by Mazda Cars and Trucks. It's halftime. The game 1 of the semifinals this afternoon. Virginia leading Duke 38-33 in Greensboro. We'll be back.
Here's of the game. Holly Farms will contribute $1,000 to the Atlantic Coast Conference to be distributed among the member institutions under a conference-approved plan. That's the Holly Farms Players of the Game to be announced near the conclusion of our broadcast. And here's Paul Cameron. Paul?
Thank you, Martin. You know, one of my personal favorite, all-time great basketball players, besides Len Elmore over here, also is the Big O, Oscar Robertson. And he's standing by with our Terry Gadd in Floorside.
Well, it's a thrill for me because Oscar was one of my childhood idols. I used to shoot around in the backyard and dream of being Oscar Robertson when I was a kid. Oscar, you were here yesterday, you're here today. What players are you most impressed with so far in the tournament?
Well, the players who made the All-American team, Doherty, Lynn Bias, and Dawkins is a great basketball player, very, very quick and hilarious. It was fun to see a good college game in a college atmosphere because the fans where I was sitting are so noisy I'm almost deaf.
How about as far as teams? Do you have a tournament favorite so far?
Well, I actually thought North Carolina would win, but that's, in a tournament like this, that's where upsets are made. It's very, very difficult to beat a team 3 and 4 times a year. This is why a lot of coaches don't like these tournaments, because you play a team 2 times in this regular season, you got to play them again in a tournament like this, and it gets tough. So I guess the team right now is Duke, and they're down a little bit.
Well, Oscar, I want to thank you for all the thrills you gave us as fans, and thanks a lot for coming by also. Enjoy the tournament.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Let's go back to Paul at the Sports Center.
Thank you, Terry. And Billy Cunningham over here reminded me that he was my favorite player when I was younger. All right, we're getting set for the second half of action. Duke and Virginia. The Wahoos lead it by 5 at the break, 38-33, and an interesting matchup is set at the top. Mel Kennedy and David Henderson. Right now, looks like Mel Kennedy winning the best of that battle. Tom Sheehy having a great game. We got more to come from Greensboro's Coliseum. We're set for the second half of action. And here's Marty Brenneman.
Thanks again, Paul. 38-33, indeed, the halftime score. You see the Cavaliers shooting around. Duke is yet to come back on the floor, although they're huddled around Coach Mike Krzyzewski over at the Duke bench. The halftime statistics. Some interesting numbers having been posted. Dan, the great disparity in field goal percentage, totally unlike the Duke Blue Devils, and also in the rebounding department.
Well, the field goal percentage, you're absolutely right, and I think we have to give some credit. We talked about Duke's defense, but we got to give some credit to the Virginia defense. Duke has not gotten very good opportunities. The rebounding, the Virginia people felt that it was important for them to out-rebound the Duke Blue Devils. They have done so. To be perfectly frank, the only reason why Duke remains in this game is those 9 Virginia turnovers. Duke has stayed in the game with defense. On those 9 turnovers, they've scored 9 points. The scoring for each team is going to look a lot the same. There's one guy who so far dominated the game for Virginia, Sheehy. For Duke, no surprise, Johnny Dawkins. I think for the Blue Devils that Allery and Henderson are both going to have better offensive second halves than they did in the first half. Virginia, I think, is going to have to be able to get the ball inside the Polonies a little better in this half than they did in the first half.
As a result, the chess game about to continue. It is Virginia ball. Mel Kennedy, Tom Callaway, and the second half is underway. The Cavaliers have up front Tom Sheehy, Andrew Kennedy, and Olin Polonies. Duke going with Amaker and Dawkins and Henderson and Villas and Allery.
Now, Polonies had to come out to catch that ball because Allery just didn't let Kennedy catch it on the other side.
Tom Sheehy picks up right where he left off.
But to continue with that shot, Kennedy moves across the lane, catches it in good position on the other side, and makes a nice pass into Sheehy. Good defense, counterbalanced by very good offensive play.
17 for Tom Sheehy. Now it's Duke's turn, and Allery loses it out of bounds. He had just started to make his move on Polonies, and the ball was gone.
There's the Virginia defense again. Now Sheehy's got 17 points today. Amaker created that turnover. Sheehy's got 17 points today. He only averages 6.5 for the year against Duke.
And his seasonal high throughout the entire season as a member of the Virginia Cavaliers, 20. So he is 3 away from his season's high, and we've got 19-18 remaining.
Now, to give you the kind of trouble that Duke is in here already, even though we've just started the second half, we showed you that graphic where Virginia is 15-2 in games where they've led at halftime. So Duke has really got to buckle down here and get after it.
Well, they forced a turnover. Tommy Amaker did at the expense of Tom Callaway. Henderson puts it on the floor and now serves it up to Johnny Dawkins. Brilliant first half. Amaker fakes, gets a step closer, and throws it up short. Gets his own rebound back.
Duke didn't do a lot of that in the first half. Those second chance opportunities are important. And Tommy Amaker converts that one. So in that particular sequence, Virginia had 2 things that they don't want. They had a turnover, and then they had an offensive rebound followed by a basket by the Blue Devils.
40-35. Here's Sheehy, offensive foul. Right there in front of Joe Forte. He had the best seat in the house.
And that's 3 fouls on Sheehy. He has made a living so far in this game driving the baseline, but this is the first time he's attempted to do it against David Henderson. Henderson's much quicker and got in good position.
Substitution for Virginia early. J.J. John Johnson in for Tom Callaway. So Duke down by 5 with 18.5 remaining in the game.
Duke has already created 11 points on 11 Virginia turnovers, and that's what's keeping them in the game.
Duke working the ball around. Amaker has shown the ability to shoot more today than he did yesterday, and now Dawkins buries another one, and there's no question his scoring is allowing Duke to remain close. Now with 17 for Johnny Dawkins. It has been a Dawkins-Sheehy show here so far.
It's an important possession for Virginia. You get the feeling that Duke is ready to climb right back in the game and take charge.
Now Kennedy to the baseline. Checked there by Dawkins. To Johnny Johnson. Dribbling away from the defense of Tommy Amaker. Now it's Polynice kicking it back outside. They've still got a lot of time to work with that shot clock. Polynice says might as well shoot it now.
That's a very impressive play by Olden Polynice. Both Tommy Amaker and Johnny Dawkins were in position to help out against Polynice, but he was able to get the ball up despite that.
He has 8 points. Olden Polynice, and it's 42-37 the Cavaliers.
Virginia stays in the man-to-man.
Henderson back to Dawkins. He spins away from Johnson, plays off to Allery, and he throws in the fadeaway. Mark Allery with 8 points.
Johnny Dawkins isn't getting you with his scoring. He's after you with his penetration. That time Dawkins just drew the defense to him and got it to Allery in great position.
42-39. Bill Kennedy comes out high to get the ball. Drew Kennedy put a head fake on Allery. He didn't go for it. The shot is missed. And who's going to be charged with a personal foul?
Jay Billis.
Jay Billis, and that's number 3 on Billis.
Mark Allery battling for position, but watch Johnny Dawkins draws Sheehy, just dumps it to Allery. Now, of course, that's not an easy shot by Mark Allery. It's pretty good defense by Olden Polynice, but Allery certainly has the ability to hit a shot like that.
1 team foul apiece against East Bluff here in the second half. Sheehy falls down, the ball loose, and a nice play by Sheehy. A great catch.
Sheehy showing you all the tools right there. Nice basket by Mel Kennedy, but Sheehy tripped and fell down, and that was a very clumsy-looking play, but he certainly still controlled the ball.
But without question, Tom Sheehy's performance enabled Mel Kennedy to have an opportunity at that bucket. And now an opportunity to three-point play at the other end for David Henderson.
Andrew Kennedy is upset with himself. Coach Terry Holland is not very pleased with that call. Now watch Sheehy, he just falls down to one of those lines. He rose up and got him. Now he's going to still control the ball. David Henderson showing you his ability to get to the baseline. He just beat Mel Kennedy and drew that foul.
I'll tell you, that play by Tom Sheehy breaks him a candidate for a Gold Glove Award. That was a great play. 7 points for David Henderson, and Duke all of a sudden is close within 2.
I think Coach Holland would prefer that Sheehy keep his feet, though, Marty. It was an interesting looking thing, but not very comforting for a coach.
Well, you get that feeling. The Duke is now starting to come around, but that can be a breaker right there. John Johnson got the roll, and a Duke foul will put him on the line.
Virginia not wilting in face of the Duke pressure. Billis fell down. Henderson or Amaker in there. I think that foul was against Jay Billis. We'll get another angle with it. Nice job by Johnson. You notice how when he came into the lane, he turned up and faced the basket before he shot. That foul's on Amaker.
And it's the second of the game on the Duke guard. Didn't get the roll that time on the free throw. Billis is there for the Duke.
Virginia's got 9 points off the bench. Duke doesn't have any production from their bench, and so that's a factor in the game, too.
46-42. Cavaliers up 4.
Virginia in the zone.
Henderson stops and pops. Off the mark on that shot. Dawkins scrambling. And as a result of trying to keep it alive and garner the rebound, he's fouled by John Johnson.
In fact, Marty, I don't think that was a zone. It looked like some people were playing zone, but you notice John Johnson guarding Johnny Dawkins man-to-man, and in that situation, there's simply no excuse for Johnson not blocking him out. You can see clearly that Dawkins had position, and Johnson fouled him.
Timeout. Virginia leads by 4. We'll be back.
Are you anything like my brother Jack? He figured the only way to get into a serious road.
14 consecutive wins and a 30-victory season. There's the second winningest coach in the history of Virginia basketball, and a young man who's already made his mark in a relatively brief time, 6 years for Mike Krzyzewski at Duke. It is Virginia ball. Allery tried to take that high bounce pass. It got away, but Dawkins.
Now, Virginia was in a diamond-in-one defense against Dawkins, and John Johnson just not doing a very good job matched up one-on-one against Dawkins. That was a very wide-open shot by Johnny Dawkins.
And it's a two-point game, 46-44. Ball goes out of bounds and a Cavalier turnover.
That's number 12 for Virginia. Duke with a chance to tie, and it's the Duke defense has brought them back. They still look out of sync on offense to me, Marty, but their defensive play has been superb.
Allery, perpetual movement inside. Virginia doing a heck of a job on the second high score on this Duke club. Henderson finds an opening. Billis follows, and it rolls.
Marty, Virginia is in that box-and-one or diamond-and-one defense. John Johnson matched up against Johnny Dawkins, and many times in this sort of a situation, the block-out responsibilities are not well defined. There you see nobody blocks out Jay Billis. He gets right to the basket and is fouled by Mel Kennedy.
So the Duke fans have something to get excited about as their club starts to come back. And a chance now to take the lead as you look at the turnovers. Free throw missed and tipped out of bounds by Duke's Mark Allery. Virginia ball.
And that turnover statistic is a very, very significant one. Duke has created 15 points on turnovers. That means their defense basically has created 15 points, and they've only scored 46 in the game.
We've got 14 and a half minutes remaining. A dead tie at 46 points apiece. Johnny Johnson with a dribbling exhibition and now seeks help. He finds it in Mel Kennedy. He takes it to the hoop and lays it in.
Good job by Mel Kennedy, but once again, the Duke defense, I think, had John Johnson in trouble. That was a break for Virginia that he was able to find Kennedy.
Henderson, it's interesting. He didn't even contest Mel Kennedy and has been charged with only one personal foul. Henderson at the other end. Didn't get it. Polonese to Tom Calloway.
Somebody's got to find Johnny Dawkins and block him out.
Johnny Johnson has it roll off. A scramble underneath. 4 or 5 bodies go down. Henderson off to Johnny Dawkins. Circle the wagons. Allery, no basket.
And the foul's on Allery.
Sure is.
What great effort down on the other end of the court. Bodies going everywhere. Olden Polonese looks like somebody fell on his elbow. There you get to see the end of it here. Now, this is always a tough situation. Mel Kennedy, everything considered, does a great job to keep Dawkins from getting the easy basket. The foul's called against Allery as he pushes off against Mel Kennedy. Mel Kennedy, you saw the expression on his face. He certainly wanted that call.
They'd have blown the roof off this joint, and Johnny Dawkins hit that shot.
Good defensive play by Mel Kennedy. We've seen some good offensive play in this game, and we've seen some great defensive play by each team.
Duke has outscored Virginia by 3 here in the second half. Nevertheless, the Cavaliers still stay on top. Andrew Kennedy shooting for a 4-point lead. Polonese does it.
Danny Ferry did not block out Olden Polonese. And when you're matched up against Virginia, you got to make sure you find him every time and keep him away from the board.
10-point game for Olden Polonese, who has to work hard every time out in getting his points against his Duke club. Dawkins again from the outside. Polonese starting to exert himself now.
Now Polonese blocked out Danny Ferry. Virginia went back to the man-to-man. They had a good block-out arrangement on that occasion.
Under 13 minutes remaining, and Polonese and Ferry are really going after it.
Now I don't understand what precipitated all that, but as they were coming down the court, well, now that may have been what it was. Ferry just got pushed out of the way by Polonese. Great job by Olden Polonese. Now you're going to watch Olden Polonese show you how to block out. Finds Ferry, gets him on his back, and gets up there. We also might want to note that Ferry didn't make the same kind of effort trying to avoid the block out that Polonese made on the other end.
And Danny Ferry is now sitting with his 4th personal foul. Mark Allery is back in the lineup probably a bit earlier than Mike Krzyzewski wanted to get him back in there.
I thought Ferry and Polonese were actually going to start punching one another.
It looked like it. 50-46, jump, a hell ball.
That'll be the arrows pointing in Duke's direction. That's a great defensive play by Billy King. He just grabbed the ball.
Mike Krzyzewski looking up and down his bench. He picks on Jay Billis.
Callaway just got himself tied up. King anticipated very well what Callaway was going to try to do. I think that's 1st and 10.
A fresh Jay Billis replaces a somewhat tired David Henderson. So Virginia's lineup or Duke's lineup, rather, looks like this now. Tommy Amaker, Billy King, Jay Billis, Mark Allery, and Johnny Dawkins.
Duke is not very deep. Duke has better depth than they've had in the last couple of years, but they're not very deep, and Virginia has attacked. Now, Duke's attacking inside, drawing the foul on Colonies, but Virginia has attacked very successfully inside. You've got Allery with 3, you've got Billis with 3, you've got Perry with 4. Jay Billis, nice catch, good fake, creates some room for himself with that fake, and then gets fouled by Colonies.
Two-shot foul coming up for Jay Billis. Couple of field goals today.
That's only 2 fouls on Olden Colonies, so he's in good shape in that direction. So Virginia has attacked successfully inside, put some pressure on the Duke inside game, but Duke hasn't been able to turn it around and do the same thing.
Calm at the moment, but it has not always been that way today for Coach K of Duke.
Virginia's front line outscoring the Duke front line 23-19. For 17 of those 23 have come from Tom Sheehy.
So Virginia winning the war in the trenches right now. Callaway puts a bear hug on the ball.
Boy, Billy King got off his feet that time.
He can't do that. Very well. Colony's got an open court. Now to Johnny Johnson. He faked the lob, goes to the paint, puts it up, around, and in. And he just took Dawkins one-on-one and whipped him.
Well, he tried to throw the lob, and I think he'd have got the lob, but Jay Billis just backed Callaway out of the way. He didn't have any place to throw the ball.
Virginia now leading by 5. Dawkins plays to Allery. His turnaround jump shot, no good. Rebounded by Dawkins, and it knocked away, and Callaway comes up with it. 2-on-1 break to the breaking John Johnson. He puts it up and in.
Good defense by Virginia to get that ball away from Johnny Dawkins. Mark Allery continues to have a tough time. Tom Sheehy got his hand on that shot by Allery to throw it off.
Virginia has outscored Duke 8-1 since the game was tied at 46-all. Dawkins fading off to Allery. He got in midair, sucked the defense to him, and just dumped it off to Allery for the easy slam.
That's the second time this half that Dawkins has created an easy shot for his senior teammate Allery with some penetration, and nobody was going to get their hand on that shot by Allery.
54-49. You see the great difference in bench scoring today. Virginia 13-0.
Johnny Johnson and Tom Callaway making a big play right here, stealing the ball from Johnny Dawkins. Look at Billy King hustling to get in the picture. That's great hustle by Billy King. And even though it doesn't work out as Johnson makes a good stop in a basket, that's really good job by Billy King getting down the court.
Tough situation right there for a trio of players on each club, more so for Danny Ferry than anybody.
Virginia has not been very productive from the free throw line in this half. Get a look at Jay Billis and Ferry sitting on the bench. They are both in foul trouble.
Al Kennedy with 8 points. During the regular season, he had 2 big games against Duke, 20 and 23, and he misses 2 big free throws.
Those are big opportunities, and I think the key words there, Marty, are free throws. There's nobody guarding you. You have to convert them if you're going to beat somebody like Duke.
A whistle before Dawkins makes his move. Let's see who Joe Forte will call this one against.
Fouls on Tom Callaway. He's doing his best matched up against Johnny Dawkins, but I'm afraid poor Callaway is overmatched there.
Well, they'll discuss it with 10 minutes and 31 seconds remaining. We're glad to have you with us this afternoon. It's a good one, Virginia by 5, and we'll be back after this from Bud Light. By 5, that's the same advantage they had at halftime. 54-39, Johnny Dawkins. He's put on a show today, 19 points, has been brilliant, and it's taken that kind of day for the Duke All-American to keep his club in the game. Memphis State a squeaker over Florida State in the semifinals of the Metro Conference Tournament at Freedom Hall in Louisville. And that's an interesting game, I'm sure, right there between 2 ranked teams. Kansas, a 2-point halftime lead over the Sooners of Oklahoma. Here we go, Duke ball.
Virginia back in that diamond-and-one defense.
Billy King found an opening. It rolls off. Colonies to Johnny Johnson.
Again, that was a tough shot by Billy King. The defense that Virginia's playing is not giving Duke very many easy opportunities when they don't turn the ball over.
Johnson shut down on the baseline. He flips it off to the other side, and Callaway throws up an air ball. The jump hook, and King got the roll.
Billy King, I guess, has decided to assert himself offensively. He shot the ball both the last possessions for the Blue Devils, and they're back to within 3.
54-51. Drew Kennedy to Olin Polynice, and coming out to pick him up, Mark Gallery.
Duke stays in the man-to-man. Virginia looking inside.
Sheehy deals low. The turnaround by Drew Kennedy, no good.
3-second violation is called against Olin Polynice. Another Virginia turnover. That's 14 turnovers for the Cavaliers.
So now Virginia has the ball. It's been a while since the Cavaliers have scored. They have not scored since the 11:24 mark. The clock now shows 9:20. Here's Allery. Up and good. And a foul, and Virginia now can watch Duke forge back into a tie.
Great play inside. Duke has elected to go inside to Mark Allery. That's not a bad decision. You can see Allery with good position takes it right at Olin Polynice.
And not a bad decision by Terry Holland to call a timeout. With 9:18 to go, a one-point game. We'll return.
You've either got to be a little crazy.
The opportunity of trying to tie it up. With a free throw coming up, and there's a young man who earlier today accomplished something, as you see, no player in the history of the Atlantic Coast Conference has ever accomplished. 2,000 points, 500 rebounds, 500 assists. Apt for a guy who's going to be an All-American, has already been one. He needed 5 rebounds today coming in to achieve that pinnacle, and he has in fact done it. Allery hits the free throw, and we start from scratch with 9:17 remaining.
Obviously, Marty, this is an important possession for the Virginia Cavaliers. Duke has made a run at him, and we'll see how the Cavaliers respond.
Don't forget, at the conclusion of today's game, we'll be choosing a player from each team as the Holly Farms Players of the Game. And just like that, Virginia gains a lead back.
And John Johnson is having a great game, Marty. He's made some big baskets for Virginia.
He has scored 12 off the bench.
Virginia now in a man-to-man defense. Mel Kennedy matched up against Amaker.
Amaker, Allery. He will pump it up from anywhere on the floor. He misses. The ball goes out of bounds, and they say it'll stay to Duke.
Billy King battling against Sheehy inside for position. King got pretty good position.
Duke again with a three-point advantage here in the second half. Dawkins shows the jump shot, no good. Here comes John Johnson.
There's no excuse for that.
I agree with you.
No excuse for that. Tom Sheehy was running down the court and just hauled off and belted Johnny Dawkins. They've called an intentional foul against Tom Sheehy. I think it was me. I'd throw him out of the game. That's awful. They will get a chance to see it. Now, you just saw the end of it right there. I do not know what Johnny Dawkins did, but Sheehy just knocked him in the back of the head.
Well, it came right in front of everybody in center court.
Now, the bad thing about that is Virginia was going down on a 2-on-1 break. They had a 2-point lead with a good opportunity to make it 4, and now Dawkins is going to the line. He missed that shot, but still, that's a turnaround that you can't afford in a close game. I have no idea what Sheehy was thinking about. Because, you know, you're going to pop up a guy, you get him inside and belt him where nobody can see it.
Well, Dawkins gets one of those 2 free throws, and now Virginia comes back. 56-55, Cavaliers. Sheehy, he's been something else today.
Sheehy, that's good discipline that time to not try to drive inside and take a bad shot. Good discipline by Virginia. Good shot by Sheehy.
58-55. Jay Billis about to come back in for the Blue Devils. Henderson backs in through Kennedy. Plays Amaker. He's left open, and he takes advantage of it.
Virginia's strategy seems to be that they're going to try to make Tommy Amaker beat them, and so Amaker's got to be conscious of that shot that he has.
Well, he's not that bad a shooter. He's over 47% from the year, and of course the guy that doesn't shoot a whole lot. Johnny Johnson gets off the shot, and Amaker fouled him.
Johnson being very aggressive offensively, takes it right to Amaker. Johnson with a spin move gets into the lane. Good help by Allery, but Amaker on the side draws the foul.
So now it gets down to the time with the 7:38 remaining. You got to hit those free throws.
That's right. It's a matter of converting the opportunities that you get. Virginia, in the person of Mel Kennedy, just recently missed 2 opportunities at the free throw line. These are big free throws for John Johnson.
And he's 1 for 2 from the line and 6 out of 7 from the field. (59-57). Terry Holland getting up to question Joe Forte about something. And apparently the answer was to his satisfaction. He's going to bring Tom Callaway back as Johnson puts it in the air and has it roll off. Billis is there for Duke.
As we said, those were big free throws. Virginia only was able to get 1 point out of that 2-point possibility. Virginian man-to-man.
Henderson in the lane. Puts it up. Hit it. And they're going to call offensive foul.
And I believe that's a good call. That time Henderson was not able to beat Drew Kennedy to the spot. Kennedy reacting very well, and Henderson did hit him as he went up.
Looked like a pretty good acting job to me.
Let's take a look and see, Marty. Kennedy standing right there. I don't think that was an acting job. Henderson, the principle, what they call it, verticality. That's a terrible word. You should think of another name for that.
Makes one sound smarter than sometimes he might be. In the turnover department, Virginia with 15, Duke with 10 for the game. But the bottom line is who has the most points, and at the moment, it's the Virginia Cavaliers. Polonese missing. The battle won by Billis. He's had a couple of big rebounds since coming back in.
Great defense by David Henderson. He came over and helped out against Polonese and forced a tough shot.
Dawkins got in the air, dished it off to Amaker, and he'll bring it outside. 6:45 to go. It is still up for grabs here in Greensboro. Billis, Dawkins with a jump shot, no good, and Billis with another board.
That was a long rebound. I thought Polonese had pretty good position, but the rebound just came out too far. Nice job by Billis.
Amaker will try again. He's been a factor today for Duke.
Virginia's been laying off of him just a little bit to try to give help inside. That's 2 big buckets the last couple times down for Amaker.
Tied again, 59. Here's Callaway with a running one-hander. The shot counts.
And it'll be an offensive foul. John Johnson once again penetrating to the basket.
They credit the basket to Johnson, but they also charge him with a 4th personal foul. So he's on the precipice, but that hoop puts Virginia back in front 61-59 as they go to the other end to shoot him for the Blue Devils. Callaway will replace Johnson, so this is going to take some offense out of that Virginia lineup. Boy, he has really performed well today.
As a matter of fact, Callaway's coming in for Sheehy. Virginia's going to try to go with a bit smaller lineup. Callaway and Johnson in the game at the same time handles the ball pretty well.
Henderson.
You saw in that graphic right there, Virginia only 7 of 14 from the free throw line. If they end up losing this game, they can look right there and see what the problem was.
Henderson has not had the big day offensively this afternoon. Scored only 8 points and has been averaging almost 15 at 61-60. That miss keeps Virginia up by a point. Johnson working on Amaker. And out of bounds. Boy, that pass was a little bit tough for Mel Kennedy to handle.
It was tough because Johnson was panicked just a little bit by the defensive pressure from Amaker, and he just wanted to get rid of the ball. He just wanted to get rid of the ball, so he threw it to Kennedy at a point where Kennedy had a tough time catching it. Another turnover by Virginia. That's 17 turnovers by the Cavaliers.
And the Duke fans exhorting their team to jump out in front here, which they can do with a basket. And Henderson will try it. He missed. He lost the ball on a rebound, and Johnny Johnson deals across to Callaway, lay it up and in.
Good fast break by Virginia. Dawkins actually got his hand on that pass, but Callaway's concentration was good enough that he caught it in stride and laid it in.
A lead of 3 for the Virginia Cavaliers with 5:16 remaining in the game. Mallory got his man in the air, put it up, no good. Rebound. Mel Kennedy had it, lost it to Johnny Dawkins, and Hank Nichols says, hold the phone. A foul on Drew Kennedy. That's his 4th.
Virginia suddenly in foul trouble now. just as Duke has been most of the half. Now, this is a good fast break. Callaway really gets out there. Amaker tipped the ball, but Callaway was able to catch it. Good hustle by Tom Callaway.
20-point day for Johnny Dawkins, and 4 fouls for number 42. He and Tom Sheehy both playing with 4 personal fouls. That's a Virginia sad but true tale, and pretty much the same for Duke.
Duke has Danny Ferry with 4 fouls. Both Jay Billis and Mark Allery have 3. I think Duke would be wise to attack inside with Allery.
Dawkins continues to rack them up. 63-62, Virginia.
And this is what we were talking about before the basketball game, Marty. This is a day that's so great in the ACC. Every possession now so important for each team.
Virginia almost coughed it up again.
Good defense. That's almost a 5-second call.
And a walk.
18 turnovers for Virginia.
So Duke, who has not led in this game since they were up 13-12, looking at that possibility right here with under 5 minutes remaining. Might have been a little bit impatient the last time down the floor. This time they are taking their time, trying to find a good one, and Dawkins lost it out of bounds. How about that?
Dawkins was thinking about what he was going to do after he caught the ball and didn't really catch it. Took his eye off the ball. You can see it right there. He was looking the other way as the ball was coming into his hands, and he lost it. That's a tough break for Duke.
Virginia says thank you very much.
That's now 11 turnovers for the Duke Blue Devils. Duke has a 13-point advantage. They've converted 13 more points off the turnovers than Virginia.
And here's another one. Billis snaking in front of Colony. Duke leads with 4:10 to go by a point. Mel Kennedy slammed it home. Blocking foul. Joe Forte calls a block when Duke expected a charge.
Mel Kennedy taking it right back. Good attack by Virginia. Now you watch Billis make the steal here. A little bit of a lackadaisical pass. Billis handles the ball very well and gets the dunk. Good decision by Polynice not to foul. Let's take a look at this one now. Mel Kennedy going to take it right to the basket. Billis trying to get in position. That's a very, very close call.
Jay Billis leads with 4 personals, and it is really starting to warm up here in the Greensboro Coliseum now. A timeout is called. 3:57 remaining. We have a good one going with that time left, and Virginia leading by 2. Stay with us. On you. 3:57 remaining, and Virginia leading by 2 after a 3-point play by Mel Kennedy. And they're the guys who are in trouble. Sheehy and Kennedy, Andrew that is, for Virginia. Perry and Billis for Duke, each with 4. Throw in John Johnson for Virginia, and followed up by Polynice of Virginia and Allery of Duke with 3 apiece.
Each possession is so very important. The teams have to make sure that they convert the good opportunities that they get. That was really quite a sequence. Billis with a dunk on one end, and then Mel Kennedy coming right back with a dunk on the other end.
Sure was.
Virginia back in the man-to-man. Very similar lineups in the game. Kennedy and Henderson are about the same size. Allery's a little bit bigger than Andrew Kennedy.
They're giving Danny Ferry the shot. He's not going to take it. Henderson posting up inside. Put it up and in, and he was fouled.
That's 4 on Olden Polynice. Good cut inside by David Henderson. Dawkins waited till Henderson came free. Great spin move by David Henderson. Polynice got that foul because he swung his arm down. I believe if Olden Polynice just keeps the hand straight up in the air, the official doesn't call the foul. Those 3 gentlemen appear to be concerned with what's going on out here, as well they should be.
David Henderson with a big bucket for his club, and that free throw fractures its eye. It is 67-66, the Blue Devils.
Now Duke is in a zone. Duke has gone to a 2-3 zone. This is a good move. Virginia's been playing against the man-to-man the entire game. We'll see if they can adjust to playing against the zone. They're trying to get in some sort of a rotation now.
Terry Holland stands up off the Virginia bench. He wants a timeout. And John Johnson complies with his coach's wish. They're going to get Tom Sheehy back in that Cavalier lineup, I believe, following the timeout. As you take a look at Mr. Holland and assistant Dave Odom. 3:09 remaining, and Virginia, for one of the few times this afternoon, now finds itself on the short end of the score, with Duke in front 67-66 as a result of that three-point play by David Henderson.
That was a good timeout by Coach Terry Holland. We're in a situation now out here on the basketball court where each possession is very important, and Virginia could not afford to waste that possession trying to get organized to see what they're going to do.
Let's go quickly to Paul Cameron and Len Elmore.
And right you are, gentlemen. Every possession, every nuance important at this stage. Lenny, your thoughts?
Well, David Henderson, who heretofore has been pretty quiet, is now coming alive. And I've always said he's the man who makes Duke go. And if he can start scoring, start creating some things on defense, Duke will be in a good position.
Weren't you surprised to see Jay Billis take the ball about half court down there for the rim snapper? I was. I didn't think he quite had that speed. All right, let's go back floor side now.
Thanks, fellas. Okay, we come off this timeout, Dan Bonner. What do you look for? It's interesting. Sheehy has spent some time on the bench. It looks like Terry Holland's going to get him back in the lineup. Had that big first half, has had only 2 buckets here in the second.
He's had some foul problems in the second half, Marty. Virginia just wanted to make sure they got organized against the zone defense. We'll see if Duke continues to play in the zone defense, whether Mike Krzyzewski just showed that to him. And the first time these two teams met this year, I thought one of the keys to the game was the fact very close, and as you got down to the end, Duke went to a zone, had some success with it for about 4 or 5 possessions, and that was just enough for the Blue Devils to get the win.
Well, right now, Duke has 4 timeouts remaining. The Cavaliers have but 2. As we remind you, this game is being brought to you in part by Mazda and by Holly Farms.
Duke comes right out of the zone. They showed a zone, and now they went right back to the man-to-man, and that's interesting. Virginia obviously prepared against the zone during the timeout. There's now 14 seconds left on the shot clock.
Allery got a hand on that Polonese jump shot.
Good defense. Coach Terry Holland is up. He wants the foul, but I thought that was a good defensive play by Allery.
Virginia finds themselves in a position that has been relatively alien to them today. Allery gets his own rebound. He sure did. No question. He traveled.
Hank Nichols waited until he had an attentive audience to finish off that call, but that was a good one. Allery has not shot the ball well from the outside today. That shot was very short.
2.5 minutes remaining. John Johnson, who has played brilliantly off the Virginia bench, misses that jump shot. The ball rebounded by Tommy Amical. So Virginia's gotten 2 good shots in a row. One from Polonese, an Allery defensive on, and that one by Johnson, and neither shot fell.
Duke did a good job on the boards on that particular occasion, limiting Virginia to just the 1 shot. Big possession for Duke.
There's Henderson. And he does it again.
Henderson had a 3-point play, just a couple of trips down the court. Now Henderson has the opportunity for another 3-point play. This is going to be the 5th foul against Andrew Kennedy. David Henderson with great position. Duke with very good ball movement. Get another look at it from another angle. You can see Henderson clearly has Drew Kennedy pinned on his back. See a look of chagrin on Tom Sheehy's face.
So that's all for Drew Kennedy. He fouls out with 1 minute and 58 seconds remaining.
And Virginia doesn't have a whole lot of time to be playing around here. If Henderson makes this basket, there's 1 minute and 58 seconds left in the game, and Virginia will be down 4 points. A gutty effort by Duke.
Richard Morgan, the freshman, apparently is going to replace the fouled-out Drew Kennedy. They're waiting on Terry Holland to make that personnel move before Henderson shoots his free throw. The Cavaliers have gone 1 second shy, or 1 second more than 2 minutes without scoring, while Duke has run off 5 consecutive points.
Duke has had some pretty good defense during that time. Mark Allery, as we mentioned, blocked an Olden Polynice shot when it looked like Polynice was a certain score.
So here's Henderson seeking his second three-point play in a matter of a minute, and he got it.
David Henderson scored the last 6 points for Duke. He's brought them from 2 points down to 4 points ahead.
70-66. Get up and go time now for the Cavaliers.
Now here's the zone again for Duke. This is a good coaching move by Mike Krzyzewski. Virginia's got to readjust all over again now.
Sheehy to Morgan to Mel Kennedy.
Big possession. I think Virginia almost has to score.
Sheehy found an opening, and he buries it.
There's Tom Sheehy again. He's operated effectively down on that baseline. Hasn't played too much in the second half because of foul trouble. That was a big basket.
70-68, a minute 18, a minute 17 seconds to go. Krzyzewski standing at the Duke bench. Holland doing the same in front of the Virginia congregation.
Duke has Johnny Dawkins, and that is a big advantage at this point in the game, trying to work that 45-second clock. I don't know that there's anybody who can do it better than this backcourt who's out here now, unless it's that backcourt that we'll see in the second game.
Well, we've got 53 on the game clock, 13 on the shot clock. If they score now, Virginia's in deep trouble, and they are.
There's Johnny Dawkins. Now, there's only 43 seconds left in the game, so Virginia's got to get a basket quickly, and then they've got to play some good defense against Duke. Duke does not have to shoot the ball again.
Polynice will try, or Kennedy rather. He's short, and Henderson comes off with it for Duke, and he is fouled with 29 seconds to go. Mike Krzyzewski will call a timeout. And it would appear at this juncture that the Blue Devils will be in the championship game tomorrow afternoon. Take a look at it again.
Maybe the biggest play of the game right here for Virginia. Kennedy has good position, but again, good defense by the Duke Blue Devils. And there's that man again. David Henderson scored those 2 3-point plays that brought Duke into the lead, now getting the big rebound.
Well, you want that player or players in your lineup that when it gets down, you can rely on to come up with a play that can turn it around, and David Henderson has been that man today for Duke.
Man, you got to give a lot of credit to Johnny Dawkins. We said that he may be one of the toughest guys in the league in working that 45-second clock. Duke ran almost all the time off. Dawkins with a good one-on-one move drilled it, and that made it very difficult for Virginia to come back, because when he scored, there was less than 45 seconds left in the game. So even had Virginia scored that time, Duke would have still had the ball with a lead in under 45 seconds.
And
good defensive play.
One of the points you made at halftime, and how true it has turned out to be, the Blue Devils needed more output offensively from Henderson and Allery. They have gotten it here in the second half.
They certainly have. A gutty defensive effort by the Duke Blue Devils that pays off in the end. And Virginia's turned the ball over 18 times and given up 22 points on those 18 turnovers. Virginia has not shot well from the free throw line, and both those things are going to be stats that the Virginia coaches are going to look at after the game and wonder what if.
Well, for the longest kind of time today, it looked like Virginia was going to emerge with an upset victory, but they say the cream rises to the top. There's a guy who has filled it up here in the last couple of minutes.
You have to give a lot of credit to the effort by the Virginia Cavaliers. Let's remember that they're playing the #1 team in the country out here. Duke is a tremendous defensive team, but Virginia stood up to that pressure for most of the game.
David Henderson with now 15 points and make it 16 with 12 coming here in the second half.
Duke's defense has limited Olden Polynice to only 8 shots from the field. It's tough for Virginia to win under those circumstances.
Well, Kennedy misses. David Henderson rebounds to Tommy Amaker with only 15 seconds to go, and it's in the hands of Dawkins. And the Duke fans now start to rise as Johnny Johnson commits his 5th personal foul, sending Mark Allery to the line. Today's Holly Farms players of the game are John Johnson from the University of Virginia. He has just fouled out Maryland finishes with 16 points and 4 rebounds in a reserve role. And Johnny Dawkins, 24 points, 6 assists. Holly Farms will contribute $1,000 to member institutions under a conference-approved plan. Again today, our Holly Farms players of the game, Johnny Johnson from Virginia, Johnny Dawkins for the Duke Blue Devils.
We might give an honorable mention in there too, Marty, to David Henderson. Johnny Dawkins, though, with his first half and his consistent play in the second half, kept the Blue Devils within striking distance until Allery and Henderson were able to produce inside.
75-68. It's academic now. Here's Mel Kennedy driving it all the way to the basket. They give him that hoop. And a quick Virginia timeout with only 3 seconds remaining.
Now Virginia's just going to stay right on the court. They simply called the timeout to get set. Wanted to set the defense. Of course, it's all over now. Allery could hand the ball to Polonese and it wouldn't make any difference.
75-70. Henderson flips it in the air, and the time it comes down into the hands of Virginia's Richard Morgan. We have a final score. The Virginia Cavaliers, they had the lead for most of the afternoon, but 2 big three-point plays by David Henderson, and then the clinching basket, Dan Potter, by Johnny Dawkins put Duke into the promised land.
I think that the story of the game has to be the defense of the Duke Blue Devils. They did not play well offensively in the first half. Their defense kept them in the game, and then at the end, David Henderson, Johnny Dawkins, Mark Allery came to the front, and Duke was able to withstand a very spirited Virginia effort.
Well, it brings to a close the season for us. It's been a dandy this Atlantic Coast Conference season, and enjoyed working with you here in the tournament.
Well, the same goes for me, double, Marty. I really enjoyed the year, and we'll look forward to a good year next year.
It has been that kind of year where you hate to see it come to an end with that kind of enthusiasm. It has been rampant here in the Greensboro Coliseum today. The Duke fans are happy. The Virginia fans are looking to the NCAA tournament as Duke wins it 75-70. And game 1 of the semifinal round is over. The Blue Devils are in the championship game tomorrow, and we'll be back after this from Bud Light.
Paul Cameron for the ACC Sports Center, and so the top seeds advance, but not without a struggle, as Duke has been taken to the limit yesterday by Wake Forest, and today 75-70 by the Virginia Cavaliers. We've got the second game of the semifinal set to come your way. It's Maryland and Georgia Tech from the Greensboro Coliseum in the 1986 ACC Championships.